The Holy Gospel according to St. Luke, the 15th chapter. Now all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to Jesus. And the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." So he told them this parable. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me." So he divided his property between them. A few days later, the younger son gathered all that he had and traveled to a distant country. And there he squandered his property in dissolute living. When he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He would gladly have filled himself with the pods that the pigs were eating, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and more to spare? But here I am dying of hunger. I will get up, and I will go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Just treat me like one of your hired hands.' So he set off and went to his father. But while he was still far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his slaves, 'Quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals upon his feet. And get the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and now is found.' And they began to celebrate. Now his elder son was in the field, and when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. He called one of the slaves and asked what was going on. He replied, 'Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he has got him back safe and sound.' When he became angry and refused to go in, his father came out and began to plead with him. But he answered his father, 'Listen, for all these years I have been working like a slave for you, and I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you have never given me even a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came back, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him.' Then the father said to him, 'Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice, because this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and now has been found.'" This is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise you, O Christ.
You may be seated. Our temptation in reading this gospel is to look at the prodigal son and go, "Oh yeah, what a great guy." We want to judge him. It's human nature to us to judge this prodigal son who took this inheritance and squandered it in a heartbeat, just for joy. Of course, he learned a very difficult lesson and came running home to his father humbly, asking for just the least of protection. It is easy for us to judge this prodigal son until we take a step back and realize that each of us is a prodigal child. Think about that for just a moment. Each and every one of us has this remarkable amazing inheritance from that cross right there. And how often have each of us squandered the opportunity to use those gifts? Truth be told, the answer is quite often for each and every one of us in here. We all have the opportunity to use these gifts, to use this inheritance for the good of those around us. But so often, we hold those gifts close to our own hearts for our own joy. I want you to think about the cross for just a minute. For many of us, that cross represents the greatest gift we have ever received. Not because that cross represents some remarkable, glorious victory that we can hide behind, but instead because the cross represents God's grace placed in the midst of our own brokenness, placed as a celebration for us to come home. Brokenness. It's who we are, broken. And we can sit here and raise up all the good things we do in the world, and we do a lot, but we are broken people. If that were not the case, the cross would not have been necessary. It's the cold, hard truth of Lent. We are all broken in our own way. And here's this gift that we all inherit, this grace, placed in the midst of our own brokenness. God's grace, God's sacrifice, God's love. Don't squander that gift. Don't squander that gift. It's meant to be used for all the best we have to offer. Many times over the years, you have had the opportunity to take this grace, which you know so well, and share it. Not use it, share it. Sometimes you have succeeded in shining God's light on others. And other times, not quite so much. We've all had those moments. I can go through a list here of places where even I, as a pastor, have probably failed miserably to show the grace that I want to show. We've all done it. It could be a moment where we got angry at a friend, or a parent, or a child. It could be a moment where we were furious with our boss at work. It could be a moment in our own household with our spouse. And we all know what we're like as kids. We've all had our moments. We have all said things we wish we hadn't said. We have all been given moments where we could share this grace, this cross, with others, and instead walk away with it. That is what the elder son wanted to do. Why are we sharing? He doesn't deserve. We're sharing because we love. It's who we are. It's in our makeup. It's our DNA. We share and we love. It's what we do. That's what the Father did in this story. Took that which he had and shared it all the more. So when have those moments arisen? I would say this. This is a bold statement, I realize, but I'm going to say it anyway. You have had opportunities. I've only been here a couple months. But in the 113 years that this congregation has been a community, I guarantee you, on more than one occasion, you have had people, members, both of clergy and non-clergy, stand up here and pour out their heart and their brokenness, their disappointment, their sadness, without getting the response they were hoping for out of the congregation sitting in the pews. That grace. I know that I have, as a member of a church, sat and listened to a pastor pour out their soul. And you know what's funny? Is that most of us, when we were sitting in these seats out here, we spend more time, I think, some of us, I used to, spend more time deciding whether or not we like the words that are being said and how they're being presented than we actually are paying attention to what is going on with the person saying them. That's true. We do that. I bring that up because it's an example of something. We walk in here and we all feel that grace. What do we do with it? What do we do with it? Are we the Father who just shares it? Hey, everybody deserves that grace. We celebrate everyone here. Remember what his Son said. Even his servants had what they needed and more. And when the prodigal son came back, he had everything he needed and so much more. That grace was shared abundantly, not used for personal self, but shared abundantly. What do we do with our grace? One of the things that has made me so happy about this congregation is how friendly we are. I have picked up on that so quickly. People all talk to each other. They all ask how each other are doing. Everybody prays for each other. You know each other. It's a community. It's a family. I have been in congregations where everybody gets up at the end of the service and quietly walks out the door, gets in the car, and drives away. What do you do with your grace? It's a gift. It's easy for us to take this gospel and focus on the prodigal son. I'm challenging you to focus on the elder son and the father. The elder son who wanted to just hold his grace for himself. It's mine. It's all mine. And the father who shared his grace so abundantly with everyone. Who are we in this story? It's a given that at some level we're all that prodigal child. That's a given. We are all that prodigal child. But we have a choice. We have an opportunity. Once we receive that gift, which we don't deserve, But once we receive that gift, what do we do with it? Do we share it abundantly like the Father would? Or do we heap it all into our pockets and save it for our future, like the elder son would? That's your challenge. This is the life we live. Grace is heaped upon us abundantly. We don't deserve the meal and the celebration that the Lord has prepared for us. When we come up to this altar, we don't deserve it, but we receive it anyway. What do we do with it? Do we turn around and share it abundantly, or do we walk back to our seats holding it tight to ourselves? Our calling is to share it abundantly. Our calling is to give thanks, share it, for all to feel. Everyone in the world. Doesn't matter what you think of the actions of another person. The elder son wanted to judge his brother. But his opinion didn't matter, did it? Because the lesson he was being taught is that love is for everyone. Love is for everyone. God's love is for all of us. We don't get to pick and choose. It's to be abundantly shared with everyone. Be the Father in this story. Share abundantly the grace that you are given. This is Lent. We are so focused upon the grace that we receive. Do something with that grace. Don't just hold tight to it. Share it. Amen.